Hi everyone, I am Walnut and welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet VGC video. This is going to be part 2 of my climb back to Master Ball with my Sylveon team. If you missed part 1, I'll leave a link to that in the description below, as well as a rental code, Pokepaste, and timestamps for each battle. While you're down there, I really appreciate it if you left a like and hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate all the support. There are no changes made to the team yet, so today we're jumping straight into the battles. My first opponent is bringing Garganacl, Kingambit, Fluttermane, Umbreon, Gholdengo, and Glimmora. I think my opponent could really easily lead the Glimmora here. It has a decent matchup into my team, and has a lot of super effective moves in its moveset, so I want to be able to handle that. Arcanine could snarl the Glimmora to break its sash early, and it also has a good matchup into Gholdengo and Fluttermane. I feel like Glimmoras are generally fast to outspeed Gholdengo, so I thought in the partner slot I should just bring Iron Bundle to pressure the Glim. This way both my attacks would be special and I wouldn't proc the Toxic Debris. The problem is if they lead Kingambit, because my Intimidate would proc their Defiant, but because my Arcanine is pretty bulky and I have a Focus Sash on my Iron Bundle, I feel pretty safe against the Kingambit even if it has a little boost. My own Gholdengo also seems quite good here as Make It Rain threatens their Rocks and Fairies. And lastly, I'm going to bring Meowscarada since Wide Guard Garganacl can cause problems for Gholdengo, and Flower Trick would be able to help with that if it's like its usual Terra Ghost. Unfortunately, I don't have Knockoff, which would be really good into Terra Ghost Garganacl to remove its leftovers. Sylveon is scared of their Poison and Steel types, though Terra Water is pretty useful into those matchups. It also does well into something like Umbreon, but I have the feeling my opponent won't bring the Umbreon to this matchup. Umbreon's more so for Psy Spam and Dondozo, and if they do bring it, I can just use it to proc my weakness policy pretty easily. Roaring Moon isn't the most useful here. I naturally outspeed most of their Pokemon anyways, and Acrobatics and Breaking Swipe don't provide too much for me offensively. Let me know if you catch this small detail on their upcoming lead. I didn't notice it the first time when I was playing, but I'm going to point it out after it happens. Did you catch it? The Garganacl came out onto the field in a Cherish Ball, which means unless the trainer changed it, this should be the same as G-Suckly's Terra Poison Garganacl with Protect, Salt Cure, Wide Guard, and Recover. A Wide Guard from their side would stop the Snarl Hydro Pump from KOing the Glimmora, but I don't think you Wide Guard when Iron Bundle is staring you down this hard. I could also see them going for a Protect Spiky Shield, which would give them info on what I want to do. It's also a pretty bad play for me, because I can't capitalize off a double Protect easily. Though that play doesn't happen if the Glimmora happens to be Choice Specs, or if it's afraid of Encore from the Iron Bundle, so I feel safe going for a Snarl Hydro Pump this turn. Their Garganacl is going to Protect, but Garganacl's slower than Glimmora, so that means Glimmora didn't. And our Hydro Pump will land and brings it down to its Focus Sash, so as long as this Snarl is able to connect, we're going to have an amazing turn 1. And we do get the KO. So we start off the battle 4v3. And we have our Arcanine in as well, so if they have Kingambit in the back, it's positioned beautifully. And my opponent did bring the Kingambit. But yeah, we have the Arcanine in, we didn't proc the Defiant, so we can really freely just go for a Will-O-Wisp here. The Iron Bundle can go for a Hydro Pump into the Garganacl slot. The Garganacl just protected, and they don't have anything to resist the Hydro Pump, so I think this is a pretty fine play. Flare Blitz doesn't KO the Kingambit, so I didn't go for that. And I think leaving it around could let it proc a weakness policy if I really needed to. They're going to go for a Terra on the Garganacl, and it is the Terra Poison. This is around the point where I realized when I was battling, oh, this is G-Suckly's Garganacl. And Hydro Pump is going to deal a nice little chunk. Luckily the Will-O-Wisp does land, so this Kingambit is going to deal a lot less damage now. Kowtow Cleave into Arcanine still does a decent amount, and Salt Cure is actually going to do a ton because it gets a crit on my Arcanine. And it's going to KO my Arcanine the following turn. But since my Arcanine's really low, I have a feeling they're gonna either finish it off with a Sucker Punch or let it fall to Salt Cure. This turn, I'm gonna switch the Arcanine out, I don't think you ever go for a Salt Cure again into a Arcanine who's about to faint to Salt Cure. And if the Kingambit goes for a Sucker Punch into that slot, that means my switch will be very safe. They could go for a Kowtow Cleave, but that means they'll just be proccing my weakness policy, and I kinda doubt you ever go for an Iron Head into the Arcanine here. The Iron Bundle could go for a Hydro Pump again to deal more damage into Garganacl. I could have protected this turn to keep it safe, but I didn't want to give them a chance to freely recover, though this does keep me safe from their Salt Cure. But I think I'll be fine if I just continue to put on pressure against their team, so I'm just going to switch and then use Hydro Pump this turn. Iron Bundle goes for the Hydro Pump into the Garg. One more might be able to KO it, but they go for a Kowtow Cleave into Bundle. They actually double the Bundle, Salt Cure it as well, and Bundle should be fainting the following turn to Salt Cure. My Goldengo's out on the field now, but the thing is it doesn't threaten too much damage into like a Assault Vest Kingambit if that's what they're running, and a Garganacl is pretty chunky as well. I don't think I'm going to go for a Make It Rain just yet, because I don't think I deal enough damage. I'm going to go for a Nasty Plot this turn. They could go for a Sucker Punch into my Goldengo, or maybe a Kowtow Cleave, but neither of those moves should KO me, and they might proc my weakness policy, so I feel pretty safe going for this play. They actually go for a Protect on their Garganacl, but I Hydro Pumped into that slot. I wanted to KO the Garganacl as fast as possible, make sure they don't have the option to Wide Guard anymore. But unfortunately it gets blocked, but we'll get a free +2 special attack, but not quite free because it costs us our Iron Bundle. But I don't think I needed the Iron Bundle too much anymore. I naturally outspeed most of my opponent's team anyways, and offensively it's not amazing. Hydro Pump is also a bit risky because it has a 20% chance to miss. On the Iron Bundle slot, I'm going to bring in Meowscarada here. I don't want to give the Kingambit a Defiant boost, and I think Meowscarada's Flower Trick is going to be my best damage to take down this Garganacl if it's going to go for Wide Guard. This turn I'm going to go for a Make It Rain now. I also went for the Terra here. I don't think it was absolutely necessary because this way I won't get my weakness policy proc. And defensively it's not absolutely necessary since they can't KO me. Though the Terra on my other Pokemon don't look valuable, as Terra Ghost Meowscarada means I'm weak to Shadow Ball and Sucker Punch, and Terra Dark Arcanine at like 13 HP does not seem valuable at all. They actually switch out the Garganacl this turn. I was kind of terrified of like Wide Guard stalling on my Make It Rain, but they just made it easy for me. Kingambit is going to land a Sucker Punch into my Goldengo. Now Flower Trick is going to blow up this Flutter Mane. So now that Flutter Mane's gone, our Make It Rain is going to be single target and Terra Steel boosted. Not weakness policy boosted though. And it's going to barely miss the KO on Kingambit, but with this Burn Chip I'll be able to get it. And with just Garganacl left, they're not going to be able to output enough damage to KO my team. So we're definitely going to win this one. I think overall the game was played pretty well by me. I did take that really early KO which put me in a super advantageous position. I don't think I was in danger of Toxic Spikes too much though, so maybe I could have just led the Meowscarada or a physical attacker instead. My turn 1 might go badly if Hydro Pump misses, or if they go for like a Terra Grass, but like a Banded Flower Trick into Icy Wind should KO them most of the time, even if they defensive Terra. The thing is, I really liked how Arcanine was able to be on the field before Kingambit, so I think I would just lead it anyways. Speaking of Arcanine, I think Arcanine is another Terra consideration, as that way I'd be a lot healthier in the mid game after a Kowtow Cleave and a Sulk here, and I'd be safe for turn 1 if I missed and they went for Earth Power or Power Gem. We did get quite lucky this game with all our Hydro Pumps landing, which let us deal a lot of damage into the Terra Poison Garganacl, which we don't have too many answers for. Although I said I didn't think I needed it, I feel like that Terra Steel wasn't actually that bad near the end, as it means Gholdengo's going to be healthier after that Sucker Punch, and if they didn't switch in that Flutter Mane, I would be able to live a Shadow Ball most likely at that HP, and also that Steel Terra ended up giving me enough damage to KO the Kingambit after that single target in the burn. That turn I was more worried of like a Kowtow Cleave wide guard or like a Switch wide guard, but with the Arcanine in the back I think I would have been fine. I could use Arcanine to reset my Choice Band to Sucker Punch if I needed to. But GG's to our opponent. I love seeing evolutions being used, but unfortunately we did not get to face the Umbreon and we didn't bring our Sylveon anyways. My next opponent is bringing Iron Moth, Flutter Mane, Tatsugiri, Dondozo, Iron Bundle, and Great Tusk. Hopefully they bring the Dondozo Tatsugiri and I have a chance to redeem myself after my loss in the last video. I want my lead to be able to deal with Dondozo Tatsugiri and also Iron Moth Flutter Mane. Roaring Moon and Iron Bundle are able to use Acrobatics, Tailwind, and Hydro Pump into like Iron Moth and Flutter Mane, versus the Dondozo Tatsugiri I can go for a Breaking Swipe Freeze Dry. After facing that Terra Steel Dondozo though, I will definitely be bringing Arcanine to the matchup. I don't think it looked like the best into the rest of their team, but it didn't look too bad either with Snarl and Will-O-Wisp. In the last slot I'm going to be bringing Meowscarada. Gholdengo looked pretty bad here, but Choice Band Flower Trick looked pretty strong. Terra Water Sylveon might have been good as well, but I thought the crit on the Flower Trick was going to be more valuable into the Dondozo. One thing I'm thinking in the back of my head as I look at their team is, where are the items? For example, they have 4 Paradox Pokemon on their team and one of them is likely holding the Booster Energy, but I gotta figure out which one. My guess is going to be a Booster Energy on the Flutter Mane, maybe Choice Specs on the did I say Flutter Mane? I meant Booster Energy on the Iron Moth, Choice Specs on the Flutter Mane, guessing maybe like Covert Cloak or something like that on the Iron Bundle, and it could be Focus Sash on the Great Tusk. But they could also rearrange the items and make it a little confusing for me. Since this is closed team sheet, I can't really be super certain about where the items are. My opponent's going to be leading the Iron Bundle and Flutter Mane here. And it's actually going to be the Booster Energy on their Iron Bundle, so I'm wondering what's the item on the Iron Moth. Might be like a Choice Scarf or something like that. Kind of expect the Flutter Mane to be Choice Specs, maybe Life Orb. Though it is possible it could be Focus Sash as well, though I think it's unlikely. The thing is, I didn't want to commit my Terra right away though, as I thought it'd be better on Arcanine. I was also not confident about going for the Acrobatics into the Flutter Mane because of the potential Sash. So I thought I'd just go for a Protect Icy Wind this turn. This way Icy Wind can break any Sashes, my Roaring Moon is going to be the fastest on the field the next turn, and I can safely go for an Acrobatics into their Flutter Mane without using my Terra. We get the Protect off, they're going to use their own Icy Wind. And it's going to land onto my Iron Bundle, drop my speed, and break my Sash. So now their Flutter Mane will outspeed my Bundle. And Dazzling Gleam is actually enough to KO my Iron Bundle, suggesting that this is a Choice Specs Flutter Mane. So that was a pretty terrible turn 1 by me. I was too scared to go for the Acrobatics and commit my Terra Flying right away, so I got pretty heavily punished for that. I think I really should have just went for a Tailwind, Terra Flying, and like a Protect turn 1. I think that would have been a lot safer, but this turn I have to go for a kind of risky play. I'm going to go for a Sucker Punch into their Flutter Mane. This won't KO if they go for like Terra Fairy or something like that, but I'm just going to hope that this KOs because it's a 3v4 now, and they have Dondozo most likely in the back, so I gotta make some risky plays to try to come back into this. Luckily our Sucker Punch will land me into an unterra'd Flutter Mane and pick up the KO. but they are going to retaliate with an Icy Wind. I decided to set up the Tailwind with the Roaring Moon here because I wanted to outspeed the Dondozo in the back. I also don't think that the Acrobatics or Breaking Swipe are going to be too useful just yet. They're going to send in the Dondozo on the Flutter Mane spot. This turn I'd really like to go for a double protect, see what my opponent might go for. I have the feeling that, like most Dondozos, when they switch in alone turn 1, they just go for a protect anyways, so I might just anticipate that on their side this turn and go for a protect on my Roaring Moon. I really want to Breaking Swipe the Dondozo, but if they protect and then the Iron Bundle can get an Ice move off into Roaring Moon, I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm also going to switch the Meowscarada out. I don't want to be locked into Sucker Punch anymore, so I'm going to switch to Arcanine. This will at least drop the Dondozo's attack with the Intimidate, though this play is pretty passive and I'm wasting my Tailwind turns, but I don't think I have too many better options here. They're actually going to protect their Dondozo as well, so it is kind of what I expected. And they'll get another Icy Wind off. But with the Tailwind boost, I think I'll still outspeed the Dondozo, but the Icy Wind misses anyways, so we definitely outspeed Dondozo. It was a pretty free switch from our side. We got a free -1 attack on their Dondozo. Since it protected, I feel pretty confident going doubling into that slot this turn. I can go for a Terra Dark to stay safe to any water moves or earthquakes that they could go for, and I'll just Breaking Swipe with my Roaring Moon. This should drop the Dondozo's attack a good amount. I'm also faster than the Dondozo right now, so they can't go for a substitute in front of my Arcanine, so this Will-O-Wisp also looks great. Iron Bundle's going to switch out this turn into the Tatsugiri, so pretty good for my side because I did not attack into the bundle slot. Dondozo is going to get all its boosts up, but I can't really drop anything besides the attack. But if I'm able to drop the attack low enough, they just have one big fat fish on the field that can't do any damage. We use our Terra on the Terra Dark Arcanine. Terra Grass would be better into the Dondozo matchup, and I have been testing out Terra Grass and I actually really like it. But they actually go for a Terra of their own onto the Dondozo. And it's Terra Dragon, so it's going to be a pretty good turn for me because my Breaking Swipe is going to be super effective now. It still doesn't do too much damage with those defense boosts, but now we drop the Dondozo's attack down to +0. Unfortunately, our Will-O-Wisp does miss though, and they're going to go for an Order Up into my Roaring Moon, and because we didn't have the Will-O-Wisp to drop the Dondozo's attack, we actually get KO'd by that. If we had landed the burn, I should have lived. So we are down to our last two Pokemon. I can maybe try to win here if I get really lucky with like crits and misses, but it's not looking great because they are pretty fast and very strong. I expect them to protect this turn anyways because there is only one turn of Tailwind left and they'll probably just stall that out. I do have to lock into an attack this turn though. I'm going to go for a Play Rough because I don't think I have any other way to break the Dondozo. And then I'm going to keep trying to Will-O-Wisp with the Arcanine. I don't think Flare Blitz is going to do enough either, since it does resist with that Terra Dragon. But yeah, at this point I'm mostly hoping that I'll be able to crit the Dondozo, get a KO, maybe they miss some attacks with the Tatsugiri, like miss some Icy Wind, Muddy Waters, or Draco Meteors. though the Iron Bundle will probably just KO me anyways. They actually go for a Waterfall this turn into my Meowscarada, and they flinch me, so I'm definitely going to lose here. I don't have a chance to get the crit, and they actually dodge another Will-O-Wisp, so I'm just going to go for the FF. I don't think there's any point in me wasting any more time here. We did get a little bit unlucky with the Will-O-Wisp misses, but I don't think it mattered that much in the end. I'd say the biggest contributor to my loss is going to be that bad turn 1 play where I didn't go for the Terra Flying and make the call on the choice specs. A turn 1 Tailwind and Protect would have put me in a pretty good position, but I made a bad turn 1 play and I lost my Iron Bundle, which effectively lost me the game. The Will-O-Wisp misses really didn't matter because the Dondozo is already going to be faster than my Roaring Moon, and it's going to be able to stop the Tailwind from going up. They also might be rest on their Dondozo because I didn't see any leftovers healing, so if they got the rest off, they were going to clear the burn debuff anyways, and I probably would have lost. I think Sylveon also might have been a better option there, as it has a decent amount of bulk, and Hyper Voice or Terra Blast would have done really good damage into their Dondozo, Tatsugiri, and Iron Bundle. My next opponent is bringing Iron Bundle, Great Tusk, Torkoal, Farigiraf, Arcanine, and Fluttermane. The team looks like it might have a Trick Room mode with Torkoal, Farigiraf, maybe Fluttermane, and hard maybe Great Tusk, though I think it might just be like Imprison Trick Room Farigiraf and support Torkoal and not like a Trick Room sweeper set, since they do have some pretty fast mons on their team. Although water moves are weaker in the sun, I do like Hydro Pump to just shut down Torkoal's eruption damage, so I do like Iron Bundle in the lead. Can also slow down their fast mons and deal considerable damage to Great Tusk and Arcanine. Roaring Moon is going to be my other lead pick. I like Tailwind if it isn't like their Trick Room mode, and Breaking Swipe is nice into their physical attackers. Acrobatics can also threaten some decent damage, though I do need to be careful around that Arcanine's Intimidate and Will-O-Wisp. I didn't want to bring Arcanine versus their team because I didn't think it packed a big enough punch, and fire moves just didn't look very good here. On the other hand, I did like Sylveon though. Water Terra would be a good option to tank fire moves, and it would deal damage into their fire types since Fairy is resisted, and I could also use it to underspeed some of the faster Pokemon on their team if they do set up a Trick Room. Meowscarada is going to be my last pick because I thought Sucker Punches and U-Turns were going to be better than bringing Gholdengo into 4 Pokemon who might one-shot it. Gholdengo doesn't threaten too much damage here with Make It Rain, though Shadow Ball doesn't sound too bad into most of their team. I think if it was not Terra Steel weakness policy and instead Terra Water leftovers or Life Orb, I'd probably bring Gholdengo over Meowscarada. My opponent's going to be leading the Arcanine and Fluttermane here, and it doesn't look like they have booster energy from their side. The thing is, they don't need a booster energy to get a speed boost because they have a Torkoal on their team. And I'm just now realizing they could switch Arcanine to Torkoal and get off a fast Dazzling Gleam if it is like max speed Fluttermane, so I'm a little bit scared here. I'm guessing the Arcanine might try to Will-O-Wisp my Moon if they do keep it in, so I'm going to go for a Hydro Pump into that slot. It'll either miss or it'll KO Arcanine, or maybe it'll hit a Torkoal as it switches in, and chunk its HP to a point where Eruption is not a worry. But I'm going to Terra Fly my Roaring Moon here. I think Acrobatics will still 2-hit KO the Fluttermane even after an Intimidate, and I want to go for the Terra since I don't want to Faint Tail any Fairy move they might go for. Looks like they didn't switch this turn, so I didn't actually have to worry about the Torkoal play. But they are going to go for a Terra of their own. I'm a little bit scared if it's like a Terra Grass Arcanine, they could survive my Hydro Pump, but it's going to be on Fluttermane. And it's just Terra Water, so my Acrobatics is still going to do the same amount of damage. Acrobatics does look like a 2-hit KO, but they have a Citrus Berry, and after the Citrus Berry healing, I'm not quite sure if another Acrobatics will pick it up. And unfortunately, Hydro Pump misses, so we're going to have to eat a Will-O-Wisp if they go for it. Unless it misses as well. So we do get a little bit lucky this turn. But they're going to set up the Trick Room here, so maybe it is the Trick Room mode, which I'm kind of surprised by, since their mons that are out right now aren't that slow. I don't think another Acrobatics is going to KO that Fluttermane, so I'm just going to use Freeze Stride to KO their Fluttermane instead. I could protect the Roaring Moon and also use that to stall out the Trick Room, but I thought I could take advantage of their Trick Room instead, because Sylveon's not that fast, so I can just switch it in on the Roaring Moon slot. If they go for a Will-O-Wisp, my Sylveon doesn't mind, and it has a decent special defense, so I could take a special move. I am worried if they KO my bundle though, maybe like a Snarl, Modest Dazzling Gleam could get the KO. I didn't go for a double protect because I didn't want to give them a chance to freely switch in the Torkoal. Sylveon comes on in, but it's going to have to eat an Overheat instead of a Will-O-Wisp from their Arcanine. And Iron Bundle is going to go for a Moonblast here. And it's also going to drop my Sylveon special attack, and at this HP I feel like Sylveon's not too useful anymore. The good thing is though that they ignored my Iron Bundle, so we actually preserved our Sash. I was a bit surprised that they targeted the Roaring Moon so hard there. I think the Iron Bundle is a lot more threatening into their team because they do have multiple fire types. But I am pretty happy with the outcome of that turn because we do keep our bundle alive. This next turn I'm scared of that Torkoal. They did get it in at full HP, but it did cost them their Flutter Mane. I'm gonna go for a double protect this turn because I just need to stall a Trick Room and I don't think they could punish this play too hard. Maybe they would be able to switch out the Arcanine, maybe get another chance to intimidate me, and also reset their stat drops after that Overheat. I'm not too worried about the Intimidate though, because I have special attackers in the back, and Meowscarada can ignore Intimidate drops if I go for Flower Trick. It's going to be an Eruption from the Torkoal, but it's also going to be a Snarl from the Arcanine, and it doesn't really matter what attack the Arcanine goes for, as long as it attacks, it should be able to KO my Iron Bundle. Sylveon will definitely be fainting, so this turn I'm going to switch out the Iron Bundle because I think I'll really need it to win this game. I need the water damage into these two fire types, though the sun is causing me a bit of a problem. I'm going to switch in the Roaring Moon this turn. Now that we're a Terra Flying, we don't resist the Eruption or the Snarl, which kinda sucks, but Meowscarada would explode to just the Eruption, so I'm going to go with the Roaring Moon switch first and hope that I have enough natural bulk to just survive the hits. Then the following turn I can go for a Protect on the Iron Bundle and the Roaring Moon to stall at the last turn of Trick Room. Unfortunately, we will have to let the Sylveon go down here. It didn't get too much value in this battle, but it did eat up 3 turns of Trick Room, which was nice. Roaring Moon comes in. It's a little bit hard to see just because of the design of this, I guess, battle arena. I'm not sure what to call it. Eruption does a ton of damage, but isn't able to pick up the KO on Roaring Moon. And as long as this is another Snarl, we should be fine. And yep, at -2 we're able to survive. Though I think even at not -2 we would have survived. Yeah, we're just going to bring in Iron Bundle because it's my only other Pokemon with Protect on its set. They might just expect a double Protect, but if they send out their last Pokemon, we'll be able to know who it is and make more confident moves from that point on. But they're going to switch out, so they're going to take advantage of this double Protect this turn. And they're going to send in for Rigraff, so I'm a little bit scared of that thing. Maybe they'll be able to set up Trick Room again, and it is really bulky, so I'm not sure if I can even KO it. Looks like Torkoal still just going for Eruptions. I really don't want them to be able to set up Trick Room again, so even though I want to target the Torkoal, I'm going to target down the Rigraff, because if they end up going for like a Protect Trick Room, then I'm going to be royally screwed. The thing is, I don't deal nearly enough damage into Rigraff with Freeze Dry and Acrobatics, so I think I'm going to have to hope for some crits or some crazy miracle to happen for them to not set Trick Room back up. And they're going to switch out the Torkoal as well, get another Intimidate off on me, and they're going to drop my attack again. And after this attack drop, I really think my chances of KOing that Rigraff are way lower. Acrobatics isn't even going to do half. And Freeze Dry is going to miss the KO. I think without the Intimidate drop, we actually had a chance of KOing that Farigiraf. The Acrobatics wouldn't bring it down to a Guavberry range, and then maybe a Freeze Dry roll could KO that giant giraffe, but like I said, it might be a roll. They actually just go for a Dazzling Gleam this turn, which I'm very happy with. I don't think I could survive another 4 turns of Trick Room, so anything besides that I will take. The thing is, this game still looks pretty rough from this position. They have the Farigiraf, Arcanine, and the Torkoal left. Meowscarada can only really lock into Flower Trick here. Play Rough is ineffective into the Fire types, Sucker Punch will be blocked by the Armor Tail, and U-Turn isn't good into the Fire types either. Flower Trick can KO the Farigiraf, but I need something close to a Miracle to win the game, because Hydro Pump is not going to be KOing this Arcanine and the Sun. This is also the last turn of Sun, so if I KO the Farigiraf, they can bring Torkoal back in for free, and then just wipe my team with Fire moves, unless I got like immensely lucky with some crits and some misses. Iron Bundle goes for the Hydro Pump, and it doesn't even do half. Maybe even if the Sun wasn't there, the Arcanine might live, and they have an item, but it's an eject button. I thought it was going to be a weakness policy at first, and that was just going to ruin my day, but maybe we have a chance to win now that they are sent out with the eject button and forced to bring Torkoal in. We're going to go for a Flower Trick, and this should KO the Farigiraf, but that eject button is absolutely perfect for me because their Torkoal is forced in on the last turn of Sun, meaning they won't be able to set it back up again. Not only that, but their Intimidate is kind of useless here because I am going for Flower Trick and my bundle's going for Hydro Pump. If my opponent went for a Protect that turn instead, I'd be in a pretty awful position because then it'd be Arcanine Torkoal versus my Iron Bundle Meowscarada, and I would definitely lose that one. This turn, I'm just going to go for the Hydro Pump into Torkoal and then Flower Trick into the Arcanine. The Arcanine is a little bit lower, and Flower Trick might 2-hit KO that thing, but I definitely need the Hydro Pump into Torkoal to make sure it's not able to KO my team. Luckily, Hydro Pump does land, so we don't have to worry about the miss losing us the game. And Flower Trick does enough into Arcanine that another Freeze Dry should be able to KO it. Arcanine doesn't have Heat Wave, hopefully, and nope, it just goes for an Overheat. It's able to KO my Meowscarada, but like I said, Freeze Dry should be able to just 100% win the game here. I think we were in a pretty tight spot, but we got bailed out by the no Trick Room from the Farigiraf and the eject button from the Arcanine. So good game to our opponent on this one, really interesting team, but wow, we got super lucky near the end. I was wrong about them not being Trick Room, and I think I played this battle pretty poorly overall, even though I ended up winning. Roaring Moon wasn't the best lead. I think Sylveon is better in most situations, and that way I could go for a Terra Water and use that to eat some hits. I got pretty lucky this game, and I think it started with the turn 1 Hydro Pump miss, because that would have allowed Torkoal to get into the Trick Room right at the very beginning. They also didn't go for the Trick Room with the Farigiraf, which probably would have lost me the game, and they didn't protect the Arcanine on the turn where they got eject buttoned out, which really bailed me out at the end of the game as well. I think it's an interesting item choice, and it can allow Arcanine to either like cycle Intimidates quickly or bring Torkoal into the Trick Room safely, but it's so unfortunate when it doesn't work out the way you want to. My next opponent is going to be using Murkrow, Fluttermane, Armarouge, Kingambit, Annihilate, and Tatsugiri. At first glance, I am extremely confused, because I see some pretty prominent Pokemon on their team, but I don't see the pairs they usually come with. There's no Indeedee with the Armarouge, no Mousehold or Grimmsnarl with the Annihilate, and no Dondozo with the Tatsugiri, so I have no clue what my opponent's strategy here is. I'm assuming the Tatsugiri is going to be the Storm Drain set, since there's no Dondozo, so I will need to be careful with my water moves. It looks like they might have a fast mode with the Murkrow setting up Tailwind, but they also have some Trick Room options as well. I really have no clue where this team is going, but I'm going to bring Sylveon in the lead here. I think it's pretty good into their team, but I am scared of like a Final Gambit Annihilate just deleting my Sylveon, so I'm going to bring Meowscarada next to it. Meowscarada can go for Sucker Punch to reduce the damage of Final Gambit, and Sucker Punch just isn't too bad into their team. It can hurt that Fluttermane really well, and they don't have Psychic Terrain to protect them. I'm going to bring Goldengo as well. I think it's a little bit safer in this matchup than some of the other ones, because Murkrow could proc the weakness policy with Foul Play, maybe Fluttermane or Kingambit could proc it too. The problem with bringing Goldengo is that it's going to be slower than the Annihilate, and I don't have Roaring Moon to boost its speed, so that might be a little bit troublesome. The other Pokemon I'm going to bring here is going to be Iron Bundle, because I want some speed control and some special damage, which Iron Bundle covers. Roaring Moon is probably my runner-up choice. You can set Tailwind and deal damage with Acrobatics, though Breaking Swipe is pretty awful into the double Defiant team, and Intimidate is bad for the same reason, so Arcanine's going to stay at home. My opponent's going to be leading the Kingambit and the Fluttermane here against my Sylveon and Meowscarada. Even though they could have Trick Room on their Fluttermane and go for it here, I'm just going to go for a Sucker Punch anyways, because even if they go for the Trick Room, I can land that Sucker Punch the following turn, and that means they will be taking a Hyper Voice for free. Hyper Voice should deal decent damage and break any sashes, give myself a special attack boost with the Throat Spray, and I'm also going to go for a Terrawada this turn in case they go for an Iron Head with a Kingambit. That would deal a ton of damage into my Sylveon, though I should survive with this spread. We have a nice blue Terrawater hat on our shiny Sylveon, but they actually go for a Terra of their own. If it's a Terra on the Fluttermane, I think a resisted Sucker Punch would still KO after the Hyper Voice, but I'm not sure. They could just go for a Terra Flying anyways. Maybe they're scared of a low kick from my Meowscarada, or maybe even a Brick Break. But nope, it's a Sucker Punch into your Fluttermane, and it looks like they aren't going for a Trick Room, which is really nice. We're able to bring him down to Sash, and Hyper Voice is going to be able to clean it up. They're going to go for a Dazzling Gleam on their Fluttermane, but it's not enough to KO the Meowscarada, which is great. And Hyper Voice does a little bit to the Kingambit. It's nice that we're able to get this Throat Spray off, because we're going to be threatening even more damage the following turns. They go for a resisted Iron Head, but it's not dealing too much damage. And here comes the Armarouge. And with these two out, I'm a little bit scared of like a Trick Room. I think it's more likely than the previous turn at least. I'm not going to target my Sucker Punch into Armarouge because of it. They can't Terra that slot, so I'm just going to go for a Terra Blast into the Armarouge, and it might pick up the KO, unless they Protect or Switch. I didn't realize it at the time, but this turn goes pretty badly if they end up switching to Storm Drain Tatsugiri to redirect the water move so Armarouge could survive, and then if they set up a Trick Room, my Pokemon are decently fast, so they would be able to be in a pretty advantageous position there. But luckily there is no switches from their side this turn. We land a nice Sucker Punch, but they go for one of their own, and since we did Terra away from the Fairy type, we don't resist that Dark move anymore. They don't end up using Trick Room either, and they just go for a Terra Blast into my Meowscarada, picking up the KO. And we go for a Terra Blast of our own, and this probably will KO the Armarouge. And it does. But since we KO'd the Armarouge with a Terra Blast, I'll never really know what the Armarouge set was. They never went for Trick Room, so it's possible it's like a weak armor set. Though 0 speed investment Armarouge is still going to outspeed my Sylveon, so it's a little bit hard to tell. I just know it's not going to be min speed. The Terra Blast, if it was aimed into my Sylveon, might have been a little bit bad, because then the Armarouge would be surviving another turn, but then I could go for another like Sucker Punch, Hydro Pump, maybe even just a Shadow Ball if I was scared of that Tatsugiri switching in. But we're going to send in the Iron Bundle here, and they're going to send in their Tatsugiri, so it looks like they did have it in the back. Their Tatsugiri could be Choice Scarf, and I want to see what move they might lock themselves into. I do expect that Kingambit to be Assault Vest, so they wouldn't be able to set up anything even if I double protected this turn to just scout out their moves. I also have Goldengo in the back and my Focus Sash on Iron Bundle, so I probably could have just attacked and been fine, but I didn't want to lose off a silly play, like a Scarf Muddy Water, Accuracy Drop, or just any sort of crits. I'm just going to be really patient and double protect this turn. Their Kingambit's going to go for a Sucker Punch, but because we double protected, I actually don't know where they're aiming it. And they go for a Dragon Pulse. So at least they're not going for Muddy Water. I don't want to have to deal with that. And I do have that Focus Sash available, so they can only really KO one slot here. I'm just going to go for a Hyper Voice with the Sylveon and a Freeze Dry with the Iron Bundle into the Tatsugiri slot. If they Sucker Punch into my Sylveon and I Quick Attacked, I'd actually be able to dodge the Sucker Punch damage, but if they Sucker Punch and Dragon Pulse with the Choice Scarf onto my Iron Bundle, they could probably pick up the KO without me being able to deal much damage, so I'm not going to go for the Quick Attack play. I think I'm fine even if Sylveon faints because I did enough damage with it already, and they only have 2 Pokemon left. I still have Iron Bundle in the back and Goldengo. Sucker Punch KO'd my Sylveon, but this Freeze Dry is going to be able to take out the Tatsugiri. It looks like it's actually not Scarf at all. Maybe it was Citrus Berry because the Focus Sash was on the Flutter Mane. So with just the Goldengo and Iron Bundle versus the Kingambit, we're going to close this battle out. Just click whatever move I want. I'm not sure what my opponent's team was here. I think the Mons that they brought could have been Trick Room, but they never used it, so I guess not. I could have been punished pretty heavily if they went for that Trick Room turn and switched to the Tatsugiri to save their Armarouge, because even though I said I needed to be careful using water moves, I still kind of just used them a little bit freely. Even if they did use Trick Room, I don't think it would have been the end of the world, because I had Meowscarada throwing Sucker Punches out and they don't have the Psychic Terrain. I also have Protect on my Pokemon to stall out turns if I need to. But with that, we're able to win the game and promote to Masterball Tier. We end up going 6-2 out of our 8 games and only lost to Dondozo, though I still think this team doesn't have that bad of a matchup. I think the losses were just on me not having experience against Dondozos and not the team. Though when I did test this team on Showdown with some of the proposed changes like Terra Grass, Citrus Berry Arcanine, and Life Orb Meowscarada, I had a pretty nice little climb session and beat several Dondozos, so maybe those few changes were enough to make the difference, or maybe I just learned from making these videos and just played the matchup better. The Paldea Prologue tournament is coming up soon, and I think I might try to participate in it for fun, but I will release a video on that if I do. I have also found a team that I'm excited to use that includes everything I mentioned at the end of my last video, so it's going to have Trick Room, Dondozo, and Iron Hands. But since we hit Master Ball Tier, that's going to be the end of the video. I had a lot of fun with this team, and I'm going to leave an updated rental code and Pokepaste in the description below. And until next time, bye bye!